Local history that changed a nation. The Gettysburg Address. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. One of only 5 copies in Abraham Lincoln's hand of the Gettysburg Address lives here at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Museum in Springfield. And we're kind of fortunate that Ken Burns decided not to come here because the real experts on the Gettysburg Address and Abraham Lincoln's life reside here, and Dr. James Cornelius is one of them. You're the curator of the Lincoln collection.
Yes, Mark.
And it's a big day, isn't it? The 150th anniversary of the Gettysburg
It's a very big day. Everybody likes round numbers. President Lincoln liked round numbers, and this is a major event because it gives us a chance to remember our nation's history and our founding ideals all at once.
What is it about the Gettysburg Address that resonates with people and stays with them through their life?
Well, I think it works at different levels for different people. It's very short, and almost anybody can memorize it, and lots of people have. It also has allusions to biblical language. It has allusions to our Declaration of Independence. It has the necessary part of it that's about consecrating the dead, the brave soldiers, and it speaks to our future, that we need a new birth of freedom to complete this nation, this union.
You know, it's interesting. I said that there are 5 copies in his hand, and one of them is here. And you told me, I didn't know this, they're all different.
Yeah, all 5 are different, a little bit.
Let's visit with the family here for a second, okay? Because during this time, and much of this program is going to be what was going on with Lincoln at the time preceding the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah.
Some personal things, real personal issues were going on in Abraham Lincoln's life. For instance, the health of his son.
Yes. Well, Tad had smallpox at the time. A few days before the president was scheduled to go up to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Tad was in bed, and the president himself wasn't feeling very well either. But we don't think that Mr. Lincoln would have skipped the trip if he'd felt kind of sickly himself. But he was worried about Tad, and so was Mary. But their family doctor told them, Tad's getting better, he'll be all right. And this was a big relief. And while the president was in Gettysburg, he got a telegram from Mary back in Washington saying, Tad's better today, too. So this put the president's mind at ease a little bit more before he gave the speech.
An example of that, I think, is that he spent a huge amount of time always at the War Office's telegraph office, so he could hear the messages coming back from his various battle commanders across the country. And it's interesting at this point in time in American history, What's different is you've got railroads that changes the dynamics of the war altogether, makes these things much larger battles than ever would have been before. And you've also got the telegraph, which makes instantaneous communication with the battlefield commanders. Once you get on the battlefield itself, it's still the old-fashioned signal flags and couriers and things like that, but he could find out almost immediately what was happening, as long as you can get to a telegraph wire and send those messages back.
A lot of people would not be aware that during the first instance in your booklet here, you talk about the fact that he's requested to do something about these riots in New York City.
Right.
What in the world was going on?
Well, New York City was very upset, or a lot of people in New York City were very upset about the federal drafts. And this is just literally in the days after the Battle of Gettysburg. And unfortunately, the opposition to the draft turned deadly. It turned into an opposition toward all things related to the federal government, and it turned into a racist draft. So a lot of, or a racist riot, and so a lot of the victims of the draft riots were African Americans living in New York City. And ironically, soldiers who had recently been at the Battle of Gettysburg had to be dispatched to New York City to help restore order.
And of course, they were asking the president to either knock off the draft or to send troops up there to knock off the draft, so they could quell the riots.
Exactly. They wanted to hold off on the draft, and the other thing we have to remember at this time is that there are constant elections going on, whether they're municipal elections or state elections. They didn't all happen at the same time of the year, every 2 years, the way we're familiar with now. And so
the booklet, On Lincoln's Mind, is available here at the library and museum throughout the week of the anniversary of the Gettysburg Address. And the Gettysburg Address itself, one of only 5 written in Lincoln's hand, is on display here through the weekend after Thanksgiving. Now, this has been a special presentation of the Gettysburg Address, Reflections from Lincoln's Hometown. Thanks for watching.